Divorced men. What happened when your ex-wife realized you were thriving after divorce? Story 1. I kept the house, but only because I bought her out with a loan that scared me stupid. The first 6 months after the divorce, I ate ramen, slept on a mattress on the floor, and tried not to spiral when the silence hit. My ex told everyone I'd never manage on my own, and that she'd be fine because she was the organized one. Then something clicked. No more arguing about every purchase. No more being guilted into weekend plans I didn't want. I started lifting again, cooking actual meals, and I took a second contract job at night. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. A year later, I refinanced, paid off the scary loan, and my work offered me a promotion because I'd been quietly stacking results. I posted a dumb photo on Instagram, me holding a set of keys in front of the house, smiling like an idiot. 2 days later, she texted, "Wow, must be nice. So you're just rich now? Then you could have done that while we were married." The funniest part? I couldn't. Every time I tried to grind, it was, "You care about work more than me." When I tried to budget, it was, "Stop controlling me." When I tried to go to the gym, it was, "Must be nice to have time." She asked if we could catch up over coffee. I said, "Sure." Public place, daylight, no drama. She arrived dressed like it was a first date and kept touching my arm like we were in a rom-com montage. She ended with, "I just didn't realize how good we could be." I told her the truth. "We're only this calm because we're not married anymore." She stared at me like I'd slapped her with a spreadsheet. Story 2. My ex-wife didn't realize I was thriving until our kid accidentally exposed me. I wasn't trying to win the divorce. I was trying to survive it. She got the friend group, the sympathetic posts, the "you go girl" brunches. I got a 2-bedroom apartment with thin walls and the joy of hearing my neighbor's entire life through drywall. But I also got peace. I started volunteering at a local animal rescue on the weekends I didn't have my son. It kept my head straight. One of the older ladies there introduced me to her niece. Nothing weird, just, "She's new in town. You two both like hiking." We took it slow. No big announcements. Then one day during pickup, my son hops out of my car and yells, "Mom! Dad's girlfriend taught me how to make pancakes into dinosaurs." My ex froze mid-sentence. She looked at my car, then at me, like I'd pulled up in a spaceship. Later that night, she texted, "So you're already replacing me?" I replied, "No, I'm just building a stable life." After that, it got weird. She started sending old photos from our marriage, vacations, anniversaries, like she was running a nostalgia campaign. Then she offered to switch weekends constantly, like she wanted to be around me more. She started complimenting me. "You look healthier. Did you lose weight? Your place sounds nice." The turning point came when she asked, "Are you happy?" I said, "Yeah. Not every day, but overall, yeah." There was a long pause then. "I thought you'd fall apart." Not even mean. Just honest. I didn't dunk on her. I just said, I did fall apart. Then I stood back up. Now she's suddenly obsessed with co-parenting dinners and family outings. I'm polite, firm, and boring. Because the biggest flex isn't a new relationship. It's not letting your past run your calendar. Story 3. My ex-wife realized I was thriving when I stopped being available to be her emotional punching bag. After the divorce, she kept calling like nothing changed. Not about logistics, about her feelings, about her job, about her mom, about dating. She'd call at 11 p.m. and say, "I just need someone who gets me." Translation: I miss the free therapist I used to criticize. At first, I answered because I felt guilty. We were married 9 years. We shared a life. I kept thinking kindness would make it easier for everyone. Then she started slipping in little jabs again. "I guess some women will date anyone. Must be nice not paying for a family anymore. You always get the easy version of life." So I set boundaries. I told her calmly, "I'll talk about the kids. I won't talk about your dating life, your loneliness, or your regrets." She laughed like I was doing a comedy bit. A month later, she found out why I was suddenly so cold. I had joined a small cycling group. I had friends again. I was sleeping 8 hours. I wasn't anxious all the time. I even changed my phone plan so I wasn't constantly checking messages. She called after one of our kids' soccer games and said, "I don't recognize you." I said, "You're seeing me without stress." Then she hit me with the line I'll never forget. "It's like you were holding me back on purpose." I just blinked. Like, what? The next week, she showed up at drop-off wearing the perfume she used when we were dating, smiling like a salesperson. "Maybe we rushed things," she said. "We could try again." I looked at her and realized something. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of me who took blame for everything because it made her feel secure. I told her, "I'm not your backup plan." She got angry, of course. "You think you're better than me now?" I said. "No, I think I'm better for me now." Her face did that little twitch people get when they realize the old buttons don't work. And honestly, that was closure. Story 4. My ex-wife realized I was thriving because of taxes. We had one of those divorces where she insisted she'd handle the paperwork because I was bad at adulting. She loved that narrative. If I made a mistake, it was proof. If I succeeded, it was because she pushed me. After the divorce, she bragged to mutual friends that I'd be drowning in bills by summer. Meanwhile, I quietly took a personal finance course online, met with an accountant, and did the most unsexy glow-up imaginable. Budget spreadsheets, retirement contributions, emergency fund, no impulsive purchases. It was like building a fortress out of boring choices. A year later, my accountant found an error in an old filing tied to our previous joint return. Totally fixable, but it required one signature from my ex. I emailed her a polite request with the form attached. No emotion, no small talk. Just, please sign and return. She responded within 3 minutes. Why are you using an accountant? I said. Because it's smart. Then, so you have money for that, but not when we were married? I didn't even argue. I just sent the same sentence again. Please sign and return. She called me, actually called, which she hadn't done in months, and started interrogating me like she was the IRS. How much do you make now? Did you buy something? Are you seeing someone? The funniest part? She was mad that I wasn't mad. The old dynamic required me to defend myself so she could feel like the judge. But I wasn't on trial anymore. She finally sighed and said, I thought you'd be a mess. I said, I was. I just cleaned it up. She signed, returned it, and then tried one last move. You know, if you ever want to talk, like really talk, I replied. I'm good. Thanks. And I meant it. The tax form was the last thing she had to hold over me. After that, she was just a person from my past. Story 5. My ex-wife realized I was thriving when she tried to shame me publicly, and it backfired spectacularly. She posted one of those vague, dramatic Facebook statuses. Funny how some people get happy once they destroy a family. Lots of comments, lots of hearts, lots of, you deserve better, queen. I didn't respond. I didn't even react. I'd promised myself no more feeding the fire. A few weeks later, our mutual friend invited me to a backyard birthday party. I almost didn't go because I knew she'd be there, but I went anyway because I was tired of hiding from my own life. I show up with a small gift and a six-pack. I'm just talking to people, eating chips, being normal. Then she arrives, late, loud, scanning the yard like she's looking for a target. She spots me and immediately starts performing. Big sighs. Oh, look who's enjoying freedom. I didn't bite. I just said, hey, hope you've been well. That's when she noticed. Not my clothes, not my haircut, my energy. I wasn't tense. I wasn't apologizing with my posture. I wasn't trying to win her approval. She tried to corner me by the cooler. So you're fine now? Just like that? I shrugged. I'm doing better. She smirked and said, loudly enough for a few people to hear, must be nice not having responsibilities. Without thinking, our friend's husband laughed and said, dude, he's been the one doing school pickups. We see him all the time. Another person chimed in, yeah, he helped me move last month. Someone else, he's at the gym every morning. Honestly inspiring. It wasn't a pile-on. It was just reality leaking out. Her face changed in real time. The story she'd been selling didn't match the evidence standing in front of everyone. Later that night, she texted me. So you're just trying to make me look bad now? I replied, I didn't say anything about you. I just lived. She never posted about me again after that. And I think that's when it hit her. Thriving doesn't require revenge. It just requires exit velocity. Story 6. My ex didn't realize I was thriving until she tried to clean up the divorce paperwork a year later. When we split, her name stayed on the mortgage because refinancing meant higher rates, and she told everyone, he'll never qualify a loan. I didn't argue. I just worked. Quietly. I took overtime, killed off my credit card balance, and lived like a monk for months. No trips, no new toys, just debt gone. Then my lender called and said, you can refinance now and remove her. So I emailed her the forms. Purely business. She replied in 5 minutes. Already? How? Then, are you making more money? Then the classic. So you had it in you the whole time. She insisted on meeting at the bank to make sure everything is fair. She walked in acting like she was about to watch me get rejected. Instead, the loan officer greeted me by name and congratulated me on my score and savings. My ex literally blinked like the lights were too bright. Outside, she suddenly got soft. I didn't think you were like this, I said. Like what? Stable, she admitted. Like it hurt? 2 days later, she started fishing. Do you still have that old photo of us at the lake? Remember our first apartment? Maybe we were just stressed. I didn't bite. I just kept the conversation on the signature she owed me. The refinance went through. Her name came off, and that's when she got weirdly angry, because the last string she had attached to my life snapped, and she couldn't pretend I'd fail anymore. Story 7. She found out I was thriving because she tried to flex on me and accidentally advertised my glow-up. After the divorce, she stayed loud online. Inspirational quotes. Know your worth. Vague posts about betrayal. She didn't name me, but everyone knew. Meanwhile, I was in the trenches rebuilding. Therapy, gym, meal prep, learning how to be alone without feeling like I was dying. A buddy convinced me to start doing small handyman jobs on weekends. It grew into a real side business. Nothing glamorous, just honest work. I posted before and after photos because clients asked for them. I never mentioned my personal life. Then one day she posted, "Some men only succeed because a strong woman built them." And, no joke, she commented my business page under it like she was tagging her project. People didn't respond the way she expected. Mutual friends started commenting things like, "He's been grinding nonstop. He's always been handy. Didn't you say he was useless?" Someone even asked, "So why'd you leave if he's thriving?" She deleted the post within an hour, but the damage was done. My page got a spike in follows and 2 new clients. That night she texted, "You're welcome, by the way." I replied, "For what?" "For motivating you," she said. "You were nothing when I met you," old me would have argued. New me just wrote, "Please don't tag my work on your personal posts." She sent back a long message about how I owe her for my upgrade. I didn't respond. I just blocked her on socials and kept building. A week later, she emailed, "Can we talk? I miss how we used to laugh." I realized she didn't miss the marriage. She missed the version of me that needed her approval to feel real. Story 8. My ex realized I was thriving at a wedding because she tried to humiliate me and ended up humiliating herself. We share a friend group, so overlap happens. I went to a mutual friend's wedding alone, planning to be polite, eat cake, and leave early. I'd lost weight, gotten my sleep back, and learned how to exist in public without scanning the room for threats. She showed up with a guy she clearly didn't even like, acting like she was on a red carpet. She kept walking past my table, laughing too loud, making sure I saw her. I gave a nod and went back to talking to the older uncle at my table about barbecue. Later, during speeches, the bride thanked me specifically for helping them move last year when her dad was in the hospital. Nothing dramatic, just a sincere mention. People clapped. My ex's smile froze. At the reception, she cornered me near the bar and said, "So now you're the hero?" I laughed, because it was such a strange sentence. "It's not a competition." She tried to dig. "Who are you dating?" I said. "No one serious." "True." She leaned in like she'd won something. "So you're still alone?" And here's the part she didn't expect. I smiled and said, "I'm not lonely. I'm peaceful." Her face did that tight little thing it used to do when she couldn't control the narrative. She muttered, "Must be nice," and walked away. The next morning, she sent me a random text. "Did you have fun last night?" Then a selfie. Then, "We actually looked good together back then." Thriving isn't showing up with a new partner. Sometimes it's showing up with your nervous system finally calm and watching the other person realize they can't rattle you anymore. Story 9. She realized I was thriving when she tried to use money to keep me emotionally hooked, and I didn't take the bait. During the marriage, I paid for everything because it was easier. After the divorce, I kept things fair. Child support on time, expenses split, receipts tracked. She hated that. Not because it was unfair, because it was clean. No chaos to hide in. She'd send me random emergencies. Her phone bill. Her car tires. "It's for the kid," she'd say, even when it clearly wasn't. If I questioned it, she'd accuse me of being selfish. If I helped, she'd treat it like proof I still cared. Then my therapist asked me one question. "Do you pay because it's right, or because you're afraid of her reaction?" So I set a rule. Kid expenses, yes. Her lifestyle, no. The first time I said, "I can't help with that," she exploded. "So you're rich now? Who are you trying to impress? You think you're better than me?" I was calm. "I'm not discussing this. Send the receipt for the school fee." A month later, she found out why I seemed so unbothered. I'd rebuilt my savings. I was taking night classes. I wasn't panicking at every unexpected bill because I had an emergency fund for the first time in my adult life. She called, quieter this time. "How are you so okay?" I said, because my life isn't an argument anymore. She went silent, then hit me with, "You were supposed to struggle." And that's when I understood. Some people don't miss you. They miss the control they had over your mood. Story 10. She realized I was thriving when I won a custody adjustment, and it scared her. At first, we had a standard schedule. I didn't fight it. I just focused on being consistent. Bedtime routines, homework, meal planning, doctor appointments, showing up. No drama, just stability. Over time, my son started asking to stay with me more. Not because my ex was bad, but because my place was calm. No rotating boyfriends, no sudden screaming matches with her sister on speakerphone, no "we're moving next month" announcements. When I filed to adjust the schedule slightly, she laughed. You can't handle more time, she said. You barely handled marriage. In court, I didn't attack her. I just brought receipts, attendance records, emails with teachers, medical appointment logs, messages showing I'd offered reasonable compromises. The judge granted the adjustment. Outside the courtroom, she looked genuinely shocked, like reality had betrayed her. 2 days later, she showed up at pickup with cookies she accidentally baked too many of. She started complimenting my apartment, asking about my work, calling me such a good dad, with this voice she never used when we were married. Then she tried it. Maybe we should do a family dinner sometimes. For him, I said. We can co-parent without pretending. Her face hardened. So you're just going to take my child and replace me? I stayed calm. No, I'm going to be a steady parent. That's all. She stared at me like she couldn't understand how I'd become unmovable. And that was the moment. She didn't realize I was thriving because of money or dating. She realized it because the systems around us, teachers, judges, schedules, could see I was stable now. And stability is a kind of success nobody can talk away. Story 11. She realized I was thriving when she tried to check in through my sister and got shut down. After the divorce, she kept the narrative that I was barely functioning. It made her feel justified, I guess. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding quietly. Therapy, running, cooking, learning how to be alone without drowning in it. I stopped drinking. I started sleeping. My face literally changed. My sister and I aren't even super close, but we talk. One day my sister calls and says, "So, your ex asked me if you're okay." I laughed because the timing was perfect. That week I'd gotten a raise and signed a lease on a nicer place. A day later my ex texted, "Heard you moved. Must be expensive." Then, "So you're doing well now?" I answered, "Yeah, I'm good." She immediately pivoted into guilt. It's crazy how you can thrive without me. Like I didn't matter at all. That used to hook me. I used to over-explain, apologize, reassure her. Instead, I wrote, "This isn't about you. Please keep texts to logistics." She didn't like that. She sent a long paragraph about how she built me and how I owe her credit for my growth. Then she ended with, "You're welcome." I didn't respond. 2 days later, she tried again. Sent an old photo of us at a concert with, "Remember this?" I left it on red. The next time we met for pickup, she was suddenly extra sweet, smiling too hard, complimenting my haircut like she was trying to audition for a role she'd already lost. The funniest part is, I wasn't angry. I just wasn't available. And when you're not available, people who relied on access to your emotions start panicking. Story 12. My ex realized I was thriving when she saw me at my worst, on purpose. And it didn't work. That sounds weird, so here's what happened. She always thought my confidence was fake. During our marriage, if I had a bad day, she'd treat it like proof I was incompetent. So after the divorce, she expected me to crumble permanently. A year later, I had a rough month. My car died, a project at work blew up, and my dad got sick. I wasn't thriving that week, I was exhausted. Then she calls out of nowhere and says, "I can swing by and drop off some things for the kid," which was suspicious because we normally met halfway. She shows up at my place and I'm clearly stressed. I'm in sweatpants, dishes in the sink, eyes tired. I could practically see her brain light up like, there it is. She walks in with this soft voice and says, "See, this is what I mean. You need someone. You always needed me." Old me would have snapped. New me just nodded and said, "Yeah, it's a hard week." She smiled like she'd won. Then I did something that broke her script. I asked my neighbor, who's a mechanic, for help. Got the car handled, my friends dropped off food, and I managed my dad's stuff with my brothers. No drama, no begging, no, "Please come back," just support systems. A few days later, she texted, "So you're okay?" I replied, "Yep. Hard weeks happen. I'm still fine." That's when she realized thriving doesn't mean never struggling. It means you don't collapse into the same old patterns when life gets messy. Story 13. She realized I was thriving when my single dad habits started looking attractive. When we were married, she complained I was lazy. To be fair, I did check out sometimes because nothing I did was ever good enough. I'd clean and she'd re-clean. I'd cook and she'd critique. Eventually, you stop trying. After the divorce, I had my kid half the time. No one was there to nitpick, so I built a routine that actually worked. Meal prep on Sundays, laundry schedule, bedtime rules, mornings with music instead of yelling. My place wasn't Pinterest, but it was calm and clean. At first, she acted like it was a temporary performance. Then she started noticing things. Our kid began showing up to her house with his backpack organized, homework done, and a lunchbox that wasn't just sugar. He started sleeping better. Teachers emailed me with compliments about consistency. One day at pickup, she stepped inside my apartment and froze. It's nice in here, she said, like she didn't want to give me the point. I shrugged. It's just routine. She lingered, asked what I was cooking, commented on my new couch. Then she hit me with the weirdest sentence. It's kind of hot that you're capable. I almost laughed. Because for years she treated capability like something she had to pry out of me with criticism. Now she was seeing that criticism wasn't motivation. It was poison. 2 weeks later, she tried to initiate family movie night for the kid. I said no. Not rude. Just no. She looked offended. Why not? We can be mature, I said. We can co-parent without pretending we're a couple. That's when she understood. My new life wasn't a phase. It was a boundary. Story 14. My ex realized I was thriving when she tried to weaponize jealousy and found out I wasn't jealous anymore. After the divorce, she dated loudly. I'm talking constant posts, couple photos, soft launch captions, all of it. Every month it was a new guy, a new soulmate, a new era. Mutual friends would message me like, "Are you okay seeing that?" And I honestly was. It felt like watching someone change outfits in a store window. Then I started thriving for real. Better job, gym, hobbies, new friends. I wasn't even dating seriously, just living. The biggest difference? I stopped checking her page. I stopped caring what story she was telling. One day she sent me a photo of her and some guy at a fancy restaurant. No context. Just the picture. I replied, "Please keep messages about the kid." She wrote, "Wow, cold." A week later, at a school event, she walked in with that same guy, hanging on him like she was trying to set off fireworks. She kept glancing at me, waiting for a reaction. I just smiled and focused on my kid's performance. Afterward, she cornered me and said, "So you don't care?" I said, "About what?" "About me moving on," she snapped. I looked at her and said the honest thing. "I'm glad you're not my problem anymore." Her face dropped, like she expected anger but got indifference. And indifference is the one thing you can't argue with. Later, she texted, "You've changed." I replied, "Yes, that was the point." Story 15. She realized I was thriving when she tried to come back, as if nothing happened. 2 years after the divorce, she reached out on a random Tuesday. "Hey, I was thinking about you. Can we talk?" I assumed it was about paperwork or the kid. Nope. She wanted to process the past. She said she'd been doing a lot of healing and had new perspective. Translation. Her current life wasn't giving her the emotional supply she remembered getting from me. I agreed to a quick coffee in a public place, mostly out of curiosity. She showed up dressed like a first date and started reminiscing. Inside jokes, old trips, the way we used to laugh. Then she dropped the line, "We were good, you know." I didn't argue. I just said, "We were also toxic." She blinked. "Toxic? That's dramatic." I smiled. "I'm not dramatic anymore." Then she asked about my life. I told her the basics. I'd switched careers. I had friends again. I was training for a half marathon, and I felt genuinely calm. She stared at me like she was watching someone else's movie. Finally, she said, "So you're happy without me?" I said, "Yes." She got quiet, then tried one last move. "Do you ever think we could try again?" I didn't say never with anger. I said it with peace. "No. I like who I became after we ended." Her eyes watered. But I didn't rescue her from that feeling. That's the difference. Thriving isn't revenge. It's not stepping back into the same fire just because someone misses the warmth. Story 16. She realized I was thriving when her emergency didn't control me anymore. During the marriage, every problem became my fault and my responsibility. If her car made a noise, if a bill was late, if she had a bad day, somehow it was on me to fix it and apologize while doing it. After the divorce, she kept trying the same move. One night she texted, "I'm freaking out. I can't pay rent. I don't know what to do." Then, "You wouldn't let your kid be homeless, right?" Old me would have panicked and sent money just to stop the chaos. New me asked one question, "Is our child safe tonight?" She replied, "Yes, but," I said, "Okay, then tomorrow we can talk about a plan. Not tonight." She called 3 times. I didn't pick up. I wasn't being cruel. I was refusing the midnight guilt spiral. The next morning I offered practical help, budgeting resources, a list of assistance programs, even taking the kid an extra weekend so she could work. She wanted cash and emotional leverage. She didn't get either. A week later, she showed up at pickup acting oddly polite. "You're different," she said. "You used to care." I answered, "I do care. I just don't do panic anymore." That's when I saw it. She didn't miss me. She missed the button she could press to make me jump. Story 17. My ex realized I was thriving when my boring life started looking like stability instead of failure. She always mocked my routines. "You're so predictable. You live like an old man." She wanted constant excitement, spontaneous trips, big purchases, new projects every month. It looked fun on Instagram, but it was chaos at home. After the divorce, I leaned into boring. Same gym days, same grocery list, same bedtime for the kid. I built a life that didn't require adrenaline to feel alive. And the wild part? My anxiety dropped so hard it felt like someone turned off a siren in my head. Then she saw the results. Our kids started thriving too. Better grades, calmer mood, fewer stomach aches. Teachers started emailing me with updates because I was the consistent point of contact. At a parent meeting, she pulled me aside and said, "Why is he doing better at your place?" I said gently, "Because it's calm." She tried to laugh it off. "So you're a monk now?" I shrugged. "If that means peace, sure." A month later, she started copying my routines. Same lunch ideas, same homework schedule, same bedtime. And she kept asking me, like it was a trick, "You're really okay living like this?" That's when I realized she thought thriving had to be loud. She didn't recognize quiet success until it made her life look unstable by comparison. Story 18. She realized I was thriving when she tried to bait me into a fight in front of our kid, and I didn't take it. We used to argue in loops. She'd escalate, I'd defend, she'd twist my words, and somehow I'd end up apologizing just to end it. After the divorce, she still tried. Drop-offs were her stage. One evening, she started in immediately. "Your new schedule is messing everything up. You're selfish. You never think." Our kid was right there, watching, tense. I took a breath and said calmly, "I'm not discussing adult conflict in front of him. Email me." She rolled her eyes. "Wow, look at you, Mr. Mature." I repeated, "Email me." She got louder, hoping I'd snap. I didn't. I buckled our kid into the car, said, "Love you, buddy," and left. An hour later, she sent a wall of texts trying to restart the fight. I replied with one sentence, "Please communicate by email for scheduling." The next day, she called and said, quieter, "Since when do you talk like a therapist?" I said, "Since I learned what peace costs." Later, I found out she'd told friends I was acting superior. But what she really meant was, her old script didn't work anymore. Because thriving isn't just money or dating. Sometimes it's emotional control. And that's the kind of success no one can take from you. Story 19. My ex realized I was thriving when I returned something she thought she owned. My time. Even after the divorce, she treated my weekends like they were hers to schedule. "Can you take him Friday night? I need you to switch because I have plans." Just this once. It was always framed as a favor, but it was actually control. If I said no, I was not supportive. At first, I said yes too often because I didn't want conflict. Then I realized something. My life wasn't restarting because I kept giving away the hours I needed to build it. So I started saying, "No, I can't switch." Not with anger. Just no. She reacted like I'd committed a crime. "What do you even do?" she demanded. "You don't have a family anymore," I said. "I do. And I also have boundaries." The irony? The time I protected went straight into my growth. I joined a rec league. I started taking classes. I got promoted because I could actually focus. I built friendships. I built a life. Then she saw it. She'd call last minute and I'd say, "Sorry, I have plans." She'd sneer, "With who?" Like it mattered. The truth was simple. I was becoming a person again. One day she snapped, "You're acting like you're single." I smiled. "I am." And that's when it hit her. She didn't just lose a husband. She lost automatic access to my time, my most valuable resource. Story 20. She realized I was thriving when she tried to rewrite history and I wouldn't co-sign it. A couple years after the divorce, she started telling people we just grew apart and that it was mutual. That story made her look peaceful and evolved. But the reality was messy. Constant criticism, walking on eggshells, me shrinking to avoid conflict. One day she texted, "I'm thinking of posting something about our divorce journey. Just something positive. We handled it so well, right?" I stared at my phone like, "What?" I replied, "We co-parent fine now." The marriage was not fine. She tried to smooth it over. "Don't be bitter. We both made mistakes." I said, "Yes." And pretending it was healthy is a mistake too. She called me negative and said I was stuck in the past, but I wasn't stuck. I was finally honest. That honesty was part of why I was thriving. I stopped gaslighting myself to protect her image. A week later, she posted her growth caption anyway. People praised her. Then someone messaged me, "Wow, you two are so mature." For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to correct anyone. Because thriving meant I didn't need public validation of my pain anymore. I just needed to never go back. Later, she texted, "You didn't like my post?" I replied, "I don't follow your page." That silence afterward? That was her realizing she no longer had a front row seat to my life. Or my narrative. Story 21. My ex realized I was thriving when she tried to upgrade her lawyer, and mine didn't flinch. We'd already finalized everything, but she suddenly wanted to revisit a couple details. Not because anything changed, because she'd heard I got a promotion and assumed there was more money on the table. She emailed me like we were negotiating a hostage situation. We need to talk about adjusting support. It's only fair. I didn't argue. I forwarded it to my attorney and went back to my day. That alone seemed to irritate her, like she expected panic or guilt. She hired a new lawyer. Very aggressive emails, lots of bold text and vague threats. My lawyer replied with receipts. The order, the numbers, the clauses, the timelines. Calm. Professional. Unemotional. Then my ex called me, furious. Why are you making this a big deal? I said. I'm not. I'm just following the agreement. She snapped. You're acting like you're some corporate robot now. I almost laughed. That robot was just me not spiraling anymore. When we were married, conflict meant chaos. Now conflict meant process. The case went nowhere. Her lawyer eventually backed off because there was nothing to grab. A week later, she texted, "You've changed. You used to be easier to talk to." Translation, I used to be easier to push. Story 22. She realized I was thriving when she saw the new version of me at a hospital, and I didn't let her back in. Her dad got sick. It wasn't my responsibility, but I still felt human about it. We were married for years. I knew her family. When our kid asked if we could visit Grandpa, I said yes. At the hospital, she was a mess, understandably. She saw me walk in with snacks, paperwork organized, calm voice for our kid. Her eyes locked onto me like I was a life raft. She started leaning on me instantly. Can you talk to the nurse? Can you help me understand this form? I can't do this alone. I helped with what directly affected our child and the visit. I did not step into the old role of being her emotional engine. Later, she pulled me into the hallway and whispered, "I forgot how steady you are." I said, "I'm steady because my life is steady now." She started crying and said, "I made a mistake." I didn't get angry. I didn't comfort her either. I just said, "I'm sorry you're hurting." That's when she tried to reconnect. Hand on my arm, voice soft, that old, we could be a team energy. And I realized she wasn't seeing me as her ex-husband. She was seeing me as her emergency plan. I told her gently, "We can co-parent. I can be respectful, but I'm not your partner." Her face changed from grief to shock, like she expected tragedy to reset our relationship. It didn't. My boundaries didn't disappear just because the moment was heavy. Story 23. My ex realized I was thriving when she tried to shame my new lifestyle, and I wasn't embarrassed. After the divorce, I got into running. Not in a look-at-me way, more like, if I don't burn this stress out of my body, I'm going to explode. I joined local races, started eating better, dropped weight, started smiling in photos again, which felt weird. She found out because our kid told her I was training for a half marathon. Her first reaction wasn't proud. It was defensive. "So now you have time for hobbies?" she said at pickup. "Must be nice," I said. "It helps my mental health." She smirked. "Wow. Therapy talk." Then she went for the low blow. "Is this your midlife crisis? Are you trying to attract younger women?" She said it loud enough for another parent to hear. Old me would have turned red and tried to explain. New me shrugged and said, "I'm trying to be healthy." The other parent, this sweet older mom, laughed and said, "Good for you. My son started running too. It changes your whole life." My ex went quiet because she'd expected shame. Instead, she got public support. Later that night, she texted, "So you're really happy?" I replied, "I'm happier than I was." Then she sent, "You weren't like this with me." I didn't answer because the truth was complicated and she didn't want truth. She wanted a reason to believe my growth was fake. Story 24. She realized I was thriving when she tried to catch me being miserable and I was laughing. We share custody, so sometimes there's overlap at school events. She always watched me like a detective, looking for evidence I was struggling. Tired eyes, wrinkled clothes, any sign she made the right choice. One Saturday, there was a school fundraiser. I showed up with my kid, and I was genuinely having fun, talking to other parents, helping set up tables, laughing, actually laughing, the kind that comes from not being on edge. She walked in and saw it. Her face did this quick flicker, confusion first, then annoyance. She came over and said, "You seem cheerful." I said, "Yeah, it's a good day." She scoffed. "Must be nice to pretend everything's fine." I replied, "I'm not pretending." That's when she tried to poke. "So who is it? Are you dating someone?" I said, "Nope." Her eyebrows lifted like she'd caught. "So you're just happy alone?" I smiled. "Yeah." Apparently, it broke her. Not in a dramatic way, more like the idea didn't compute. She'd built her whole story around me needing someone to function. Watching me enjoy my life without a partner threatened that story. After the event, she texted, You were always so serious with me, I wrote back. I was stressed, she didn't reply. Because you can't argue with peace. Story 25. My ex realized I was thriving when she tried to use nostalgia, and I asked for the keys back. A few years after the divorce, we had decent co-parenting. Then she started dipping into old habits, dropping by unannounced, forgetting things at my place, stretching handoffs into long conversations. One day she showed up saying she needed to grab a box of old photos she'd left in my storage. She didn't bring the kid. She brought wine. She said, I just thought we could talk, like adults. Then she started flipping through photos like a highlight reel. Vacations, birthdays, our wedding. She kept pointing at me, smiling and saying, see, we were good. I let her talk for a bit. Then I said calmly, do you still have the spare key to my place? She froze. Why? Because I want it back, I said. Today. Her face hardened. So you're kicking me out of your life? I replied. You're not in my life like that anymore. She tried to spin it into an insult. You're so cold now. I said, no, I'm just clear. She handed the key over like it weighed 100 pounds. Then she whispered, you really moved on. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just said, yeah, I did. And that's when she realized thriving isn't flashy. Sometimes it's one small moment where you reclaim your space, literally and emotionally, and the past finally stays in the past. Story 26. My ex realized I was thriving when she heard my name over a microphone. We worked in the same industry, different companies. After the divorce, she loved telling people I was fine, but not leadership material. I didn't correct her. I just kept my head down and did the work. A year later, I got invited to speak on a panel at a regional conference. Not a TED Talk or anything, just professionals talking shop. Still, it mattered to me. I showed up in a decent suit, notes in my pocket, heart pounding like I was about to fight a bear. Halfway through, I see her walk in. She'd heard through the grapevine and came to support the community. She sat in the back with that tight smile like she was waiting for me to stutter. Instead, the moderator introduced me with my new title. People clapped. I talked about a project I led after the divorce, the one that got noticed. I made the room laugh once. I answered questions without sweating through my shirt. I wasn't trying to impress her. I was just solid. Afterward, she hovered near the stage until the crowd thinned. Then she slid in with, I didn't know you were doing all this. I said, I didn't advertise it. She did that thing where she pretends to be playful, but it's really probing. So you're like, successful now? I shrugged. I'm doing well. She got quiet, then hit me with, it's weird. I thought you'd need me to push you. I looked at her and finally understood. She wasn't shocked I'd improved. She was shocked I'd improved without her commentary. 2 days later, she texted, want to grab dinner and catch up? Like old times, I replied. No thanks. See you around. Thriving, to me, was walking away from the biggest audience she'd ever had for my life. Me. Story 27. My ex realized I was thriving when she tried to follow my sad divorced guy routine, and found out I had a whole new life. After we split, she assumed my nights were Netflix, takeout, and regret. That's the story she told people. He's not coping. I didn't defend myself because I was busy actually coping. What I did instead was join an improv class. Yeah, I know. Sounds like something a guy does after a breakup. But it forced me to speak, to laugh, to be around people without the pressure of dating. It was awkward, then fun, then addictive. I made friends who didn't know my marriage story. They only knew me as the guy who commits to the bit. One evening, my ex texts out of nowhere. Where are you? I said. Why? She replied, our kid said you're performing tonight. Turns out my kid had overheard me telling him I'd be on stage for a student showcase and told his mom. She showed up, sat in the back, arms crossed, and then she watched me be happy. Not fake happy, not revenge happy, just relaxed, joking with strangers, getting applause for being brave enough to look silly. After the show, she cornered me outside and said, since when are you funny? I laughed. I've always been funny. I was just stressed. She stared at the group of people hugging me goodbye like she couldn't process it. Then she tried to slide back into familiarity. We used to laugh like that, I said. Not really. Her face tightened. So these people know you better than I did? I shrugged. They know me now. Later that night, she texted, I don't recognize you. I replied, good. I rebuilt on purpose. Story 28. She realized I was thriving when she asked me for a favor she was sure I couldn't refuse. During the marriage, she handled money by spending first and arguing later. After the divorce, she kept trying to use my stability as a safety net. Little requests at first, then bigger. One day she calls and says, I need you to co-sign a car loan, just as a backup. It won't affect you. That sentence alone told me everything. Old me would have said yes to avoid conflict. New me asked, Why can't you qualify on your own? She got defensive. Because the system is unfair. Because I'm rebuilding. Because you owe me. There it was. The entitlement dressed up as hardship. I said calmly. No, I won't co-sign anything. She went straight to guilt. So you want me to struggle? I said, no. I want you to be responsible for your own choices. She got angry fast. Wow, you think you're better than me now? I replied. I'm better at boundaries now. Silence. Then she tried a new angle. Is this because you have someone? Are you trying to impress a new woman? I almost laughed. No. This is because I learned what it costs to be your backup. A week later, she texted. I figured it out myself. I replied. Good. I could feel her wanting a fight, wanting me to play hero or villain. But thriving meant I didn't audition for either role. I stayed boring. And boring is terrifying to someone who used to control you with emergencies. Story 29. My ex realized I was thriving when she ran into me on the one day she expected me to be miserable. Our anniversary used to be her favorite day to remind me of everything I'd done wrong. After the divorce, I dreaded that date like a storm warning. The first year, it hit me hard. I stayed home, spiraled, stared at the ceiling. The second year, I made a decision. I'm not giving that day power. I took a personal day from work and drove out to a state park with a packed lunch. I hiked until my legs shook. I sat near the water and wrote down what I'd learned in the last year, what I tolerated, what I ignored, what I'd never accept again. It sounds cheesy, but it felt like closing a file. On my way back, I stopped at a small cafe for coffee. And there she was, sitting by the window, alone, scrolling her phone like it was feeding her oxygen. She looked up and froze when she saw me. I was sweaty, sunburned, calm. Not dressed up, not trying, just alive. She said, "Why are you smiling?" I said, "Nice day." She narrowed her eyes. "Do you even know what day it is?" I nodded. "Yeah." Her voice got sharp. "And you're just fine?" I took a sip of coffee and said the truest thing I've ever said to her. I'm not going to mourn a life that was killing me. She looked like she'd been slapped. Not because I was cruel, but because she realized I'd reclaimed a day she thought belonged to our past. When I left, she watched me go like she was watching a door close that she assumed would always stay cracked open. Story 30. She realized I was thriving when she tried to start drama with my new girlfriend. And my girlfriend didn't flinch. I didn't date for a long time after the divorce. I fixed my routines, my head, my finances. When I finally met someone, I kept it quiet. No posts, no announcements. Just a normal, healthy relationship with a woman who didn't treat conflict like entertainment. My ex found out because our kid mentioned Dad's friend, helped him with a science project. That was it. But my ex's imagination did the rest. At the next pickup, she showed up early and waited like a trap. My girlfriend was in the car with me because we were headed to dinner after. My ex walked up and said, loudly, "So this is who you replaced me with?" My girlfriend didn't react. She just said politely, "Hi, I'm Naeem. Nice to meet you." My ex tried again. "Good luck." He was never good at commitment. My girlfriend smiled and said, "We'll handle our relationship privately. Thanks." Then my ex turned to me, expecting me to defend, explode, or apologize. I didn't. I just said, "We're leaving now. Email me if you need to discuss schedules." In the car, my girlfriend reached over and squeezed my hand like it was nothing. No adrenaline. No fight. Just calm. Later that night, my ex texted, "She thinks she's better than me." I replied, "Don't contact my partner. Keep it about our child." She didn't respond. And that's the moment she realized I was thriving. Not because I had someone new, but because I had someone, and a life, where her chaos couldn't get in the door.